Well, welcome in everybody. This is my second video today on YouTube, and I've uploaded two to Odyssey within the last few hours. I kind of mentioned that in my last live stream there. So I decided I better come on here and let you know that there is a series that I'm doing. I don't know how long it's going to be. It might stop at this second one or maybe the third one that I'll be talking about in a minute. But this is the title, The Corruption of the Abrahamic Religions. That's going to upset a lot of people, but after years of study and experience, and that involves not just all the different texts, but it also involves experience dealing amongst all of these things, and actually practical experience as well. I think that I should go ahead and do this. Like I say, it's going to be a problem because we're going back to the source. The three great world religions that have the most people, I think, of any other religion, if you lump these together, are Judaism, which is the smallest group actually, then Christianity and Islam. They're all based upon the Abrahamic idea, the covenant, all of that back in Genesis. And I'm just going to say up front, as I've talked about for quite some time, there's some significant, very, very difficult, problematic situations with the way that those ideas have come down to us in the present day. And even early on, as early probably as the 4th century BC, certainly by 250 BC. What are you talking about, Roy? Well, in the description box below are two links. I could not put these two videos up on YouTube. You'll see why when you watch them. They are on Odyssey, and I know there are some problems with Odyssey. I certainly have problems trying to get things loaded up on Odyssey the way I'd like. I'd like to do editing and all that, but I can't. But in the description box is part 1 of the corruption of the Abrahamic religions and part 2. And there will probably be a third one, but I probably won't do the presentation there. It'll probably be some links of some other videos, as I explain in part 2 there, of Islamic people giving their take on the Quran and on the Hadiths. Okay. That way, I'll avoid people saying, "Roy, you don't understand Arabic, so you shouldn't be commenting on it." Well, I can read their translations, and that's disturbing enough. But I think I'll stick on me making a presentation, basically on Judaism, on Israelite tradition, religion, that kind of thing, and on Christianity. I'll stick with those and let the Islamic people speak for themselves. I think that's the wisest way to go. So, with all of this that's happened in the Middle East since October 7th, and really we can take that all the way back to 1947, 48, as most of you know, when Israel was declared by the powers that be and displaced a lot of people there, claiming that God had given them, the Jews, that land, and it's been a problem ever since. It even caused a division amongst Jews, as I've talked about. I've talked about who I follow on X, Torah Judaism and Torah Jews. Those are two separate groups. But there are others, and they talk about why Zionism is wrong, why it's a problem, and why the state of Israel is not the Jewish state, even though it claims to be. I'm not saying it all by myself. Jews are saying this. It's been a division amongst the Jews, even in Israel. If you're capable of looking up some of the videos that are being put out by certain Jewish groups in Israel, the Zionist Jews that control the state of Israel attack the Jews that are the fundamental type Jews. I'll just put it that way. So there's a division in that entire situation. And if you're an anti-Zionist, I think there was a bill or a resolution in the House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress saying that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And I understand that Governor Kristi Noem is now doing that in South Dakota, And of course, Governor Ron DeSantis has done some things like that in Florida, and there have been some others. Well, these people really don't understand what they're dealing with, and I can't get into it here on YouTube any further than that, other than tell you to go look at the links in the description box. What I will say here, as part of the introduction, I don't do this gleefully. I don't take pride in this. I don't even take comfort in it. It's like I said when I wrote my book, The Crimson Thread. I had to approach the writing of that book with some sobriety. You take on world religions, and you're really biting off a big piece, and people are going to come after you. But you gotta show the problems, because if you don't, like a doctor, if you don't point out the difficulties, you'll never find out what the disease is, and you might not even be treating the disease, only the symptoms. But you need to know what the disease is to properly treat it. And the Abrahamic religions are all ill. They're all sick. So that's kind of where I'm going. I'm not going to say much more about it, because it would definitely alarm the algorithms and those who like to watch my channel and to complain. I have noticed that I've been getting really some weird stuff on my X account. As soon as I put up a post concerning the situation on October 7th and the parties involved and all that, I almost immediately start getting these risque, R-rated, even triple X-rated posts that come to me, and they're pretty. I mean, I'm a heterosexual, okay, but I'm not into that kind of entertainment. But it's obvious where it's coming from. I could say, but I won't, because that'll be another alert that I can't do. But let's just say that it's from members of the IC. I'll just put it that way. It's real obvious, or people that are affiliated with him. What I will say is that in the second part two, on those two videos that are in the description box that are on Odyssey, on part two, there is a link to Myth Vision. It's about a 3-hour program that he put on, discussing the findings of one Dr. Jonathan Adler, who wrote a book called The Origins of Judaism, and it's the culmination. It's his explanation of years of archaeological research trying to find when Judaism actually had its start, not in the writings that we have today, but in actual archaeological evidence. And as I've already said in these two videos and probably before, this is going to be a big argument for a long time, because a lot of sacred cows are going to be tested, are going to be examined, and it's not going to make a lot of people happy. I didn't do the archaeological work, but I did the textual criticism, the historical analysis, the biblical analysis, all of that, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Talmud, the Zohar, the Bahir, the Sefer Yetzir, all the things that you would use to come up with what happened in the development of the Israelite culture and tradition, which eventually became Judaism, which eventually became Rabbinic Judaism, which eventually became Rabbinic Talmudic Judaism, and also Christianity, going from the Messianic hope, from Daniel, Ezekiel, those types of things, Enoch, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, to the Messianic movement of the first century, which was quite militant. I talked about that quite a bit, and those starts of Christianity with the input of people like Philo, the person we know as Paul the Apostle, Josephus, um, the early church fathers. There's a lot of difficulty with all of that, and you can see when you study it really hard all of the obvious agenda changes that are being made to push a particular idea or doctrine or dogma. And it's evident in all three of the Abrahamic religions. It comes up all the way across the board. So I wanted to approach that and explain it, especially the situation that we see unfolding in the Middle East right now, in Israel and in the occupied territories, and how the other nations, Arab nations in particular, are approaching this. They're really not doing anything, and it's not surprising. Money's always the bottom line. Money and access and power, and a lot of people are being hurt. Again, I'm not justifying what happened that Hamas did on October 7th. I understand the frustration, but they were set up, as I have explained already, with the payment to Hamas, their 30 pieces of silver, because that definitely happened. And what can I say? Betrayal is the name of the game in this era, this age, that and deception. So at any rate, Dr. Adler's book is not actually available yet that I can find. I will be getting a copy and going through it, as a lot of scholars will. And like I said, I'm sure there'll be some arguments, pro and con. But from what I've heard so far in the link in the description box of the second video, part 2 on Odyssey, it goes along with a lot of what my conclusions have been. Does that mean there's no God? Does that mean that possibly the Gnostics were right? Does that mean that the Hindus are right? Does that mean that somewhere else altogether? Well, don't forget, wherever the truth is, it's going to be accosted by the evil side to try to twist it and change it to its own agenda, and we always see it. So that's why I go back, and some people say, "Well, Roy, you're just a Christian, you don't know it," but not really, not in the standard traditional form, as I've long said. There are two things: love God. You may not understand Him; you might not be able to be comprehended. The Jews at one point say, for instance, that, and a lot of religions say, well, he's incorporeal, he's immaterial. You can't. And yet there's things in Holy Writ that show that he's in the form of a man, and it is a man, and that's a family, as I've discussed with the Tetragrammaton and all that. I'm sticking to that. So love God, however you comprehend Him. One of these days, if you're doing the right things, and I don't mean by doing the Torah, doing the mitzvot, doing things, but trying to love God and love your fellow man. Those two things. Those two things were what really stood out in all of my study, from Hillel saying, "Do not." It was a Jewish rabbi who said, a Pharisee, as a matter of fact, who said, "Do not that which you hate to your fellow man." Then Jesus, of course, saying, "Love God." The two great commandments are love God and treat your neighbor like yourself. These are the two great commandments. Upon these are all the law and the prophets. Then James saying basically the same thing with the royal law of the priesthood. And I think that's where it is. And people try to convince you to go their way in doctrine and dogma because it's the only way. Even so far as to say, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I've maintained for a long time that it's more important that you maintain the concepts of Jesus Christ in your heart and mind rather than some personage. And I'm sure that that's the way he would look at it too. But all of these things have been corrupted over the millennia. Abraham was known as a man of loving kindness and the friend of God. And his posterity have turned in not to the blessings that they were supposed to give to the world, but they have turned us against each other and against one another, and they're a curse and a blight upon our souls and our well-being. And they're an embarrassment, I think, to God himself, certainly to Abraham, if Abraham was a real person. So that's where I've been. I'll take a few questions, I suppose. Let's see if I'm getting any. It doesn't look like I am. Not sure what's going on here with this thing. Let's see if maybe the chat's not working. That wouldn't surprise me. Hopefully we're still up and running. Maybe we got disconnected. That's all I got for you here. Please go watch the two videos in the description box. Together they're about an hour long. They're about, one's I think 35 minutes, the other's about 30 minutes, something like that. And then of course the the link to the YouTube video in the part 2, which is the origins of Judaism. All right. All right. You all take care out here.